Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into something pretty interesting. Can AI really, shake things up in the very specialized field of chemical and process engineering?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question.
We're focusing on a specific platform, Solvi. It's a new AI-powered ecosystem from a startup called Nordlys Tech, and, well, they claim it's going to revolutionize how these engineers work.
And the problem they're trying to solve, it really hits you when you look at their materials. They're saying chemical and process engineers spend, get this, 70% of their time on repetitive tasks.
70%. That's huge. Time that isn't going into innovation.
Exactly. And then you add in the complexity, all the different data sources they're juggling, plus the, let's be honest, often tedious manual documentation.
Yeah.
You see why something like Solvi might be needed.
Definitely. So to really get a handle on Solvi, we've dug into a few different places. Nordlys Tech's own website, naturally the LinkedIn profile of one of the co-founders, Ayub Frikat, their profile on the Unicorns Club platform, and even a couple of their pitch decks.
Quite a bit of material to sift through.
Yep. And our goal here today, for you listening, is to unpack how Solvinus actually works, what kind of dent it could make in this field, and, well, what makes Nordlys Tech a company maybe worth keeping an eye on.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe with Nordlys Tech itself.
Yeah, let's do that. So Nordlys Tech, pretty new, right? Founded in Oslo, Norway, just last April 2024.
Right. And what's interesting straight away is the founding team. 4 engineers, but a mix. 2 from computer science and AI backgrounds, and 2 with deep roots in process and chemical engineering.
That blend seems really intentional, doesn't it? Like built in from the start.
Absolutely. You need both sides of that coin, the tech know-how and the domain expertise.
Now, they mentioned having some kind of hybrid presence in London and Tbilisi too, but that looks like it's tied to an IT outsourcing arm. Seems a bit separate from Solvis itself.
Yeah, the core Solvi team looks like it's around 15 people, covering all the bases: support, data, engineering, marketing, R&D.
A fairly lean team taking on a big challenge then.
Seems like it. And they're using the Unicorns Club platform, which is basically for startups looking for investors. Tells you they're serious about growth.
No kidding. And speaking of growth, they're actively raising funds, a $500,000 pre-seed round.
With a target date of June 2025, offering 15% equity.
And how they plan to use that money is quite telling, too. 40% on infrastructure and tech, the core stuff.
Right. Then 30% on developing the actual product, solving.
20% for business development, partnerships, getting it out there.
And the last 10%, compliance and security, which is crucial in this space.
Absolutely critical. Okay, so that's the company structure. What about the people, the founders? Ayub Frikat seems key.
Yeah, his LinkedIn is interesting. He's listed as co-founder at, well, what he initially called a stealth AI startup since April 2024. That's Nordlys Tech, obviously. But he's also still a process engineer at a company called Capsule Technologies.
Holding down 2 roles.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And his background: 2 master's degrees, one in chemical engineering from Milan, another in process engineering from Toulouse. Plus, he lists skills like data mining and large-scale data processing. Very relevant.
Definitely ties into the AI side and the other founders.
Well, there's Soraya Billison, the CPO. Her background is also chemical and process engineering, but with a focus on sustainable development using physics-informed software.
That sounds intriguing.
It does. Then Gibran Anadi, the COO, same engineering background, focused on integrating computational tools.
And rounding it out is Salah Adin Alabouk, leading AI and data engineering. Background in data engineering, machine learning, focused on automation.
So it really is that blend we talked about: deep engineering knowledge plus serious AI chops.
Exactly. It's the kind of mix you'd want to see. Oh, and they also have an advisor, Olav Grinos-Gurdi.
Ah, yes. The founder of IntelliStream and co-founder of Boost.ai.
That's the one. He brings experience in actually applying AI in the real world, which adds a lot of credibility, I think. Yeah, practical experience counts for a lot. Okay, so strong team, clear funding goals. Let's talk about the main event, Solvin itself. What's the core idea?
The mission, plain and simple, is to empower these engineers to cut through the clutter, basically, and let them focus on the innovative stuff.
Tackling those pain points we mentioned, the repetitive tasks, the data overload.
The slow documentation, not getting insights quickly enough, all of that.
And their approach uses these agentic AI systems. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, they break it down into 2 types. You've got Knowledge agents, think of these as AI assistants that provide insights, help with analysis, and then action agents that can actually do things, perform tasks, draft reports.
So it's more than just an analysis tool. It's trying to be like an active participant.
That's the idea, like a collaborator. And they really stress safe and reliable AI. They mention a deterministic knowledge base.
What does that mean in practice? Traceability.
Essentially, yeah. It suggests you can track why the AI reached a certain conclusion, back to specific data. Builds trust, especially compared to some black box AI where
Yeah.
you're not sure how it got the answer.
Makes total sense for engineering. So transforming data into a strategic edge, using real-time monitoring, predictive analytics.
Right. Not just looking backwards, but forwards. Anticipating issues, optimizing on the fly, and crucially, they say it's tailorable.
Adaptable to specific workflows, because not all engineering teams work the same way.
Exactly. One size fits all wouldn't cut it here. So this adaptability is key. Have you dive into the features? Those knowledge agents sound pretty powerful.
Let's do it. So these knowledge agents, they're trained on very specific chemical engineering data, right? Not general internet stuff.
Correct. Domain specific. The goal is to give engineers really deep, context-aware insights for analysis, troubleshooting, even design and optimization.
In areas like reaction engineering, separation technologies, complex stuff.
Very complex. And they use this phrase, an on-demand team of expert engineering co-pilots.
That paints quite a picture, like having a team of specialists ready instantly.
Pretty much. And they give examples like analyzing column internals, that's a big deal in process plants, or defining lab test protocols, outlining safety procedures for oil and gas.
Tasks that usually need a lot of time and very specific expertise.
You got it. So the potential help there is significant. Then you have the other side, the action agents.
Right. These are the ones that do things, trained on specific workflows to perform tasks, draft reports.
Like AZPs, the hazard and operability studies, critical for safety, or generating instrument lists. They do this by processing technical documents.
P&IDs, PFDs, simulation reports. The kind of documents engineers live in.
Exactly. Piping diagrams, slow diagrams. The idea is the action agent can read these and say, draft a preliminary HAZOP report or list out all the instruments needed.
That could save an enormous amount of time on documentation alone.
That seems to be a major goal, freeing up those engineers for, well, higher level thinking. They also mention streamlined project organization, central access to info, tackling that clutter again.
And something called Workflow Plus Rush for tracking activity.
Yeah, seems like a way to monitor how Solvin's being used on projects, track progress within the platform itself.
It really sounds like a comprehensive approach to the whole workflow. Okay, let's get technical for a moment. What's actually under the hood? How is this different from just using, say, ChatGPT or another general LLM?
That's a really important question, and they address it directly. They point out, quite rightly, that general LLMs often just don't have the specific vocabulary or deep understanding needed for chemical engineering.
They might misunderstand technical terms, get things wrong.
Precisely, which can lead to inaccurate outputs, and that's obviously a huge problem in this field. So Solving isn't built on generic AI.
So what are they using?
They call them domain-adapted models, built specifically for chemical engineering. They use a proprietary hybrid framework. It combines a few things.
Okay.
Fine-tuning existing models with their specific data, using specialized RAG retrieval augmented generation with custom vector embeddings.
RAG helps it pull in the right information, right?
Exactly, from their specialized knowledge base. And they combine this with advanced reasoning, using a rule-based approach that's tailored for process industries.
So a multi-pronged approach, not just one technique.
Seems that way. And they say they rigorously evaluate it against their own internal chemical engineering benchmarks. They need to prove it's accurate and reliable.
That validation is key for adoption, surely. Engineers need to trust it.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to the market opportunity. If they can genuinely address that 70% inefficiency.
The impact could be massive. They even put a number on it, didn't they, for potential savings?
They did. Around $411,000 in annual gains, they estimate, for a small company like 15 engineers in Norway, just by cutting down those repetitive tasks.
That's a serious ROI potential, a strong selling point.
Definitely. And their own survey, albeit small 19 senior engineers, suggests the industry is ready for this kind of shift.
What did the survey find?
Basically, that engineers see AI becoming more integrated. Not just a tool, but almost like a team member. They expect AI to help with accessing knowledge quickly, automating routine tasks, doing complex calculations, providing assistance across the board.
So the perception is changing. It's not just a fancy calculator anymore.
It seems not. And Nordlys Tech has their sights set clearly. The initial target is the process and chemical industry.
Focusing on specific areas.
Yes, particularly energy, sustainable energy, carbon capture, hydrogen production, areas with lots of complex processes, lots of data. Makes sense.
And then they plan to expand.
That's the plan. Into electrical, mechanical, civil, even nuclear engineering later on.
Start focused, then broaden out. Sounds logical. Okay, but in these critical industries, safety and security are non-negotiable. How are they addressing that?
They seem very aware of it. They talk about a commitment to safe, explainable AI using industry-specific guardrails.
Guardrails to keep it operating predictably.
You'd assume so. And on security, they list enterprise-grade measures. End-to-end encryption, secure data storage, specifically mentioning within the EU, and strict access controls.
And what about the company's own data? Their valuable IP.
That's a big one. They state explicitly that proprietary process data and IP never leave the user's environment. That's designed to reassure companies about data privacy and keeping their competitive edge.
That's crucial for trust. Okay, so if people listening are intrigued by Solvi, what can they do?
Right now, Nordlys Tech is inviting people to join a waitlist for Solvi.
So signaling they're getting ready for rollout, maybe beta testing?
Seems likely. They're looking for early adopters to try it out, give feedback.
Got it. Okay, let's try and wrap this up then. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive into Solvi and Nordlys Tech?
Well, I think Solvi clearly represents a very targeted, potentially quite powerful way to bring AI into the chemical and process engineering workflow. The focus on efficiency, on freeing up engineers for innovation, it's compelling.
Yeah, it addresses a real documented pain point, that 70% figure. And Nordlys Tech itself, it's young, ambitious, but seems to have the right mix of engineering and AI expertise. They could genuinely shake things up.
And I think what's valuable for you listening is seeing this trend. AI isn't just general tools anymore. It's becoming hyper-specialized, tailored for specific industries, specific problems. Solvi is a great example of that.
It really shows how AI might embed itself in these complex technical fields.
Definitely. It's a peek into how AI might become less of a standalone thing and more of a deeply integrated partner.
Absolutely. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you to chew on. As tools like Solvi get better and become more common, how does the job of the engineer actually change?
Right. If AI handles more routine tasks, what new skills become essential for engineers? What's the next evolution of that role?
Something to think about. Maybe even check out that McKinsey report Nordlys Tech mentioned, the one about the economic potential of generative AI for a broader view.
Good suggestion.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.
Step up your game, join the unicorns club. Making it rain, nothing ever enough. Invest in the future, watch it all blow up. Unicorns club, we taking it up.